Okay people, we are going to be making this, and what you'll need is Cinema 4D and Octane Renderer plugin. Okay, so I got a number of people asking on my channel. Sorry, let's just go, where's my channel? Here it is. Heaps of impressions and likes on this image and some tutorial requests, so I'm going to try and see if I can replicate it. Let's go. I'm going to start with a landscape. I want to increase the height to, say, let's do a number of 460. I do not want rough furrows or fine furrows. I want a plateau of about 40, and let's take the orientation to -x. So what I have created is like this organic hallway. I can change the seed to whatever I want. So let's change it to 9. Nice. Next I'm going to Control copy, Control V, paste, turn off the original. That's just so I've got a copy of it. I'm going to press C to change this to polygons, or you can press the little button over there. I'm going to select this button up here to give me my foreview. Select here to select the polygons. Actually, I'm going to select the lines tool. Make sure my landscape is selected. You can press MK to get the knife up, or you can go mesh, where is it, create tools, knife. It'll bring up the same thing. So I want to change the mode of my knife tool to plane. I don't want to restrict the selection. So now you can see it's on a plane. I want to make that plane YZ. You can see now it's, whoops, undo that, I accidentally clicked. Straight line, I want to select slice and 20. So that's now going to slice 20 even planes right through my object. I'm going to do select cut so it keeps the selection after I do it. So now press. You can see it's selected all those cuts. And what I want to do now is go mesh, not spline, I want commands, edge to spline. So now you can see that's dropped splines. It's converted it to splines. I wanted to move that out, delete that object. So now I've got all these splines. That's exactly what I want. I could leave this like this and go to my next stage, but what I would like to do is select the points, and I see I've got heaps of points. If I select all, I want to simplify this a bit and smooth it out, have a nice smooth structure. So let's go B spline, close the spline so it's a complete object spline and adaptive. And then I'll go to mesh, I think it's spline, round, and I'll take these points down so it simplifies it and smooths it out. Apply. So you can see there it's, smoothed it out nicely, reduced the amount of points, and that is exactly what I wanted. Select my move tool again. So what I will do to create this structure is I'm going to use a sweep. Now a sweep needs a spline and then a shape that moves through that spline around it. So I'll drag that into the sweep, and then the shape I'll use is a rectangle that goes on top of the spline, and it looks all crazy because the rectangle is huge. Select my transform tool there, or T on the keyboard as a shortcut, and just drag that right down. You can see my structure is forming now. So let's make that a round figure of 15 and 15 centimeters. Now I saw yeah, some craziness happening here. Let me turn off the rectangle and we select the landscape. So there's a point right here. What I might need to do is, they're all selected, all those points. I might need to go to optimize. So mesh commands optimize, and it's deleted that point. And let's see if it has fixed it. Yes, it has. Nice. So that's the structure. Let's elaborate on that structure. Let's make a plane. Let's make this plane just huge. 4,000, 4,000. That's good. And then I'm going to copy and paste that sweep. I'm going to press R for rotation, and I'm going to drag that around. Zoom in a bit. Press E to move, and I'm going to drag it to about this position here, just lining up. So now we've got, two together. So we've got this kind of structure happening. Great. Just save that so I don't lose it. And the last piece of the puzzle is I want a person in there. So let me take you to XOIO Air, and I'll put this link in the description, but these are some free people. You put in your details, and I think it allows you to download these free 3D scanned people in. So I've already done that. I'm going to go open 3D assets, this OBJ file of the people. Just going to leave that as all default. Wait for that to open up. Okay, if I zoom in, yep, a load of people. I'm going to use this guy, selected him, unspindle that, Steve walking, copy that, and move back into my file, paste that. You can see he's there, really huge. Change to my model and move tool. If I select the axis tool there, I can move the middle point to the middle of him, deselect the axis. So now when I move him, he is in the center. Press T. I'm going to scale him right down so he's in, none of this is perfectly to scale. It's just lining it up with your eye. Press E to move. So there he is. I want him really small to create an awe-inspiring scale of this structure. So that'll do for now. I'm going to select that texture, delete it. Select that texture, delete it, because I'm not quite doing the textures yet. And let's open up the Octane Live View window. So let's set up some of my parameters. Go to the render settings here. Select Octane Render. I'm going to deselect Save, and 1200 by 1200 square is my render. And the Octane settings, I'm going to use path tracing, just 1000 for now, and 4 for the GI clamp. And I'll turn that on, but it's not going to show much because we've got no lighting in there. So let's fix that now. Let's go, I've got some shortcuts up there, but let's go Objects, Hdri Environment. So once again, just go Google something like outdoor HDRI free, go to tools, increase, the size. You want larger than 2 megapixels or something like that, and then just find something you want to use. We're not going to directly see this, it's just used for color and lighting. So then I just selected this HDRI and saved that to my computer. So let's go grab that. Select image texture, go to my 3D assets again and my saved ones, and that's the one I've chosen. No, I don't want to copy that location. Now we've got some nice even cloud lighting. I want to also add a sun, and I want this sun to be angled down. You can see the effect happening there already. Let's make it -10, and I want it coming from the other side. Yeah, I love how you get that instant feedback from the sun in Octane. Let's make it 192. Sweet, that's good. And what I also want to do, I want to click Mix Sky Texture. So what that'll do is what it says. You'll mix them together so I get the rays of the sun and the shadowing of the sun, but I get that color and light information also from the Octane sky. So that's my lighting. Got my models, lighting, now I want a texture. Save that. Materials, Octane Diffuse. I'll just call this structure. I'm not going to change anything. I'm just going to, actually, before I drop it on, select both sweeps by holding down Shift, Alt G to group them, rename structure, and then I'm going to just drop this texture onto the structure there. I'm just going to have it as a default diffuse white. Nothing fancy. Let me do a materials, Octane glossy material. And this will be my floor. And I'll do a little bit to the floor. You know, it's not going to have a huge effect, but it helps with the realism. So let's go click on the node editor. Drag in an image texture. And so what I did, once again, I just went and searched. I searched for stone floor texture. I didn't really like any of these ones here, but I just want something with a little bit of texture that I can play around with. So I just saved that to my computer. So let's go find that, where I saved that. Textures, I think dirt texture. No, I don't want to copy that across. So let me just drag that to the diffuse so I can see, and let me drag that texture to the plane. I'll just call it floor. So I'm not going to use the color information. I do want a nice white minimal end to this, but just so I can see what I'm doing, put it on the diffuse, and let's get a transform node, drag that to the transform, select lock aspect ratio 0.05, just so it's really small. And then let's get a color correction node, drop that on there, and let's take the saturation right down, just so I'm working with a black and white image. Let's make the brightness 2 and the gamma 4. So now it bumps up that contrast so you can see an amount of texture happening there. And like I said, I don't want it on the diffuse. I want it on the roughness and maybe the specular as well. And just adding a little bit more texture, I'm going to get the displacement. I'm going to drag this texture into the displacement, drag the displacement onto the displacement node there, increase the level of detail. I'm going to turn off my structure so I can just see my floor. Hold down Alt or Option and double click those dots and it'll hide it. You can see it's, you know, got some nice displacement, but it's way too big, so I just want it at 1. Yeah, so that's just added some subtle detail to the floor, so we know it's there. And that is my texture for the floor. And lastly, let me just move Steve. Maybe to there. So I need a texture for Steve, so let me materials, Octane Diffuse, double click, and I'm just going to go texture, Octane image texture, select image texture, and those 3D scanned people come with their own maps. So Steve standing, I think that's the same as Steve walking. So if I wait for that to load, drag that over to Steve, it has applied it to Steve. And I just want to make sure, let me just put a camera in there. So I have that space to remember where I was. But let me just, if I select Steve and then I press, make sure I'm in this window mode, just drag this across, press S, it will zoom right up to Steve. And if I rotate around him, I can see the map has applied to him correctly. His feet are through the floor just a little bit, so let me just drag him up. Yep, and now I can, now I can go back to my camera view. So all my textures are done now. So let's start with my camera position. So I can see the focal plane is right out there. So press F for focus on the Octane live view. Select Steve and the focus plane goes right on him. So if I change anything to do with my camera, my focus plane will be there. I'm not going to play with the blur or anything too much today. Okay, so that's my camera. Let's once again round some of these figures out so that we're all on the same page. Let's go -20, looking down a bit, and 65. Don't want to show too much of that left side, so let's make this -130. -180 in the Y. And let's go 300. So I like that composition. And then once again, I'm just going to play around with where Steve is. I want to have him looking quite small, maybe right there. Just using sort of similar to a rule of thirds composition. This is sort of this horizontal line there, and we've got about a third and third, so that'll do. I'm just using some basic design principles. I think the final ingredient might make this sun a little bit more yellow. It's nice orange, but I know my other render I used yellow and blue, so I'm going to try and go for that color composition a bit more. That's good. The fog is the last element to this, so objects, Octane fog, nice big black slab of fog right in the middle. So let's go generate. I'm going to make this 12, the voxel size. I don't want my computer to slow down too much, so I'm not going to go huge. I'm just going to go what I want. So 800 on the X, 500 on the Y, 500 on the Z, and then I'm going to drag that right back, and we can see the edge of it in our live viewer. Let's put this at -350. So it's over Steve, it's covered him up, but I know I'm going to make my edge feather 1. Now the edge feather is like a sort of gradient opacity from the edge of the box inwards, feathering it off. Now I'm going to go to my medium tab, volume medium. I'm going to change these to be white, pure straight up white. And what I'm going to do see my previous render I had like a blue tone. I'm going to go back into this one and give it just a subtle blue. It doesn't take much at all. You can see it's turned blue. And now let's change my density and volume step. So density, I want something really small, like 2. Seems to have gone away, but if I change the volume step length to 1, it increases the quality of rendering of that fog density, so it brings it back again. So maybe I want to up this blue a little bit more that I've done that. So we've got this yellowy sun and the blue reflection of the clouds and this blue sort of fog depth into the distance. And I think that's pretty much it. So I just want to make sure my render settings are all okay, and I crank up the samples a little bit for my final render, and then just hit render. So I hope you like that, guys. If you want to keep up to date with when I put these out, you can follow my Instagram at Mankind, or just hit that subscribe on YouTube. Hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you can show me what you've done with this tutorial when you give it a go. Thanks, guys. Catch ya. Bye.